Hi again, everybody. I'm back, and my goodness, it has been quite a trip getting here. But we're back with resin, smoke. Let some of that goodness go into the world. This is just a pot shard, really, a broken pot that I still use for charcoal. You know, those round charcoal pellets that you can light, and it's not all that stable, but as long as I keep track of it, it'll hold my incense quite well. And I bought some new incense. It's not really all that fresh. There's juniper, which looks like this, so that'll probably be American juniper right there. Still smells fairly nice. And this smells amazing. It is myrrh in pure resin form, and it looks like this. Nah, you can't see that. Let me just get out a bit. It's fairly fine, and it has like a let me see if I can. No, I cannot show this to you really. It has like a cinnamon color, but it's slightly transparent, and it is uplifting and reassuring in a way. And I can do with a bit of reassurance because my theme, yes, let's go to my theme here. I had a fear, an anxiety attack, I suppose is what we tend to call that. But it wasn't like unfocused, which you can have also, anxiety in general, just everything just completely overwhelming you, and you can't tell at that point what it is that's going on really. It wasn't like that. I don't want to get too personal or go, make things too complicated or too triggering, but I just had a very strong, very fearful reaction, where what I could see, bottom line really, was I was feeling triggered, being triggered on being responsible or being held responsible for things that are not my doing. That is my personal nightmare. It looks like this is really my so far it's my most profound cross to bear. I don't know. This drives me crazy. And it's actually thanks to a Facebook post that I realized that other than having this, state of total fear that kind of completely overwhelmed me and taken complete, it was just kind of, and then the only thing I can do is sort of rationalize myself away from that again and just get a grip, and push the emotions aside, which is not really what I want to do, but I kind of have to because it's too strong and it's so, it makes me feel so powerless. I don't see how there's anything at that time that I can just do about it. And I am just reduced to, a pile of rubble, really. It's like a bomb site, and there is nothing I can do within that situation. So at some point, I am trying to, take myself away from that. Then I notice it doesn't really work. I want to take care of the emotions. I want to know how I feel, really. I want to know how I feel. So, getting back to the Facebook post, it was on the Supportive Tarot. Hi guys, thank you, because it's been really useful. And it wasn't really about this, although there was a card in this 2-card spread about fear. So that kind of drew my attention. And then it was about, in the little bit of text below, it said, fear of not being accepted. And then I thought, hang on a second. Hold the phone. It is about, there's a fear of something here. And up to that point, for 24 hours or so, I had just been in this very generalized state of everything's, the building is going to fall on top of me and I'm going to be, reduced to a bomb site, and I won't be able to have any, I can't move on. I don't know how to move on from this situation, this position. So I realized, because of what it said in the Facebook post, it is not just fear being written on the sky on every side of me. It is a fear about something. So I had to think again, I had to use my brain for myself, for my own, progress, make my own progress happen, really. So I thought, I had to think back for a second. What is the fear really about? And it is this fear. It is about being held responsible for something that I cannot possibly be responsible for. In the case of the person that I was dealing with yesterday, it was, somebody being out of control, angry, which is understandable in their situation. And it was when I was a tiny kid, and the same thing happened. And that's always been my nightmare. I couldn't just push it all away and blame them for whatever happened to me, and that's the end of it. Because I understood too much. I have always, driven myself crazy, understanding way too much, because that was also something that was very much promoted and stimulated in the household I grew up in. You always have to try and be compassionate and be understanding and know where people are coming from, and so on and so forth. So then I kind of figured out that I am, and this is a couple of years ago already, I am being held accountable, not for my own actions only. There is I am triggering somebody by an action or an attitude or a pronouncement or something. There's a trigger there. There's definitely something. But maybe only 10% or less of the actual energy load that is being, splashed into my life here from this angry person, 10% or less is caused by my own action, my own original doing. And this was very much the case with my mother. And so I wasn't allowed also, of course, not to blame her for whatever was going on. And I was supposed to be understanding and compassionate in a way that nobody explained to me how you were supposed to do that. And of course, it's something that I'm only getting to nowadays, figuring out that all this stuff is linked together, really. So, yeah. And it kind of got to me now that this mechanism has been going on for a very long time. Because my mother herself also was blamed like this. And it is kind of the way we internalize all these voices and think after a long time afterwards that they are our own voice, or you have to, do a lot of work to figure out, oh, well, really, this is actually my mother's voice, or it's my, I don't know whose voice, my dad, my this guy or the other. And okay, so then you leave it at that. But the mechanism, it is the mechanism of the blame being transferred. That's more or less the way I'd like to call it now. And I felt when I was 3 and 4 years old and my mother was angry with me that I was being blamed, I was being held accountable, I was responsible. Deeply. I was actually, in a sovereign manner, supposed to be responsible for everything that happened to her. Had happened to her before I was born. All of it. And of course, that doesn't really make any sense in terms of human responsibility or agency. What it did is it shattered my own notion or inner sense of sovereignty, of being an agent in whatever way. So all these years, all that half a century, I have been working towards, charting this territory and getting all those pieces back together and at least get them aligned, or figuring out, and the soul retrieval and all the rest of it just is part of that whole tale. And maybe if the soul retrieval theory hypothesis is correct, and it is true that I had a part of my consciousness that was locked away in a former life, really a past life, then that explains that this, what happened to me in this life, actually served reintegrating that part, because I was looking everywhere. So that's one way of making sense of the whole thing. I don't even care that much at the moment whether about the past lives business anymore. I know that there are past lives and that we can sometimes access them, or that we can be troubled by them, definitely. But I'm not so much I'm definitely not so much interested in all the historical details and all the, sense of being in this town or in that place or whatever. I can't be bothered, because this the way we hurt each other by, making angry pronouncements, or by being particularly forbidding and impossible to connect with, which was what my parents did, both of them, also to each other. And of course, to me, the whole thing was something they had inherited in one way or another. They had a very warped sense of connection. My father had a completely, skewed, twisted sense of connection. And he never got back to anything that made real sense to him emotionally, ever. And as far as I know, he's still alive, and I am not going to look for him anymore, because I don't see how I can win that game, not after 87 or whatever it is years. I'm not going to make a dent in that pattern of his anymore. So I just hope he's kind of okay and kind of healthy, and I wish him, the best possible outcome, and he'll have to do his own thing with this. And because there's a bit of responsibility there that I don't see. There's so much stuff that you need to be an agent. You have to have the focus, you have to have the inner peace also, and from there on out you can do a lot of stuff, you can do a lot of things, you can intervene maybe even in somebody's life. But I don't want to dream about that type of stuff anymore. I just want to sit here and do this, where I am finally, I'm making tiny bits of sense out of things, and to me they're huge bits. They're really huge. And I can tell that my mother who was the prime suspect in the whole tale of blaming, she had been blamed before her. All those helpless children had been blamed by their parents. Aggressive, pent up, frustrated, hurt people who had been hurt by their parents. So this is tough stuff, right? This is not your average happy, blissful, this is what I found out, YouTube material. It is about the dark side. And everybody's talking about the shadow and about the dark parts of yourself. And what did I see just now? Defensiveness and so many other ways of, it's all down to fear. So apparently, well, I suppose that once we are done with all these themes of fear and trying to keep up appearances and trying to put on a happy face when in fact you're not that happy at all, and all the rest of it, when we're done, we will feel better, and we will find power there. So I pulled a couple of cards, of course, because I was originally thinking that I might even use these 4 cards as like a thread to talk about my theme here. But it looks like it is actually fairly simple, because this is what I had to say today, or at this moment anyway, about, us sort of being forced to be subconsciously responsible for things that we haven't even been a part of ever. And we're carrying the burden. It's like a big rucksack that's full of stuff, and it's behind you, and you have to take it off and unpack it and make sure of all the details and all the parts in it. And only after a while can you see this is really what it's all been about. And I can only be an agent to the extent that I am actually holding something. But inside, there was this wide open, sovereign spirit consciousness, because I was like, yay high. I was a kid, and I came from the cosmos, and whatever was being said to me was the exact literal truth, because that's how I really, so I kind of have to respect that again. And that's something that really makes a lot of sense to me, is to reconnect with that innocence and that beauty. Those are terms that just come to me naturally, because being an artist and all, that's what I love. It's always been part of my life to some extent. But as a human being, and as a part of society, and a part of a communication going on, an ongoing conversation about all these things, I have to redefine myself. And I think that I could best redefine myself as something quite close to that, quite close to, I'm on the side of the innocence. So my cards are the King of Cups, not bad at all. The 3 of Discs, 3 of Pentacles. Peaceful family. This is what, strangely enough, it is the 4 of Wands. So it's not an ace, even because the aces look different in the Marielle. Which I kind of see now as this developmental force, really. A lot of this is about forces. That's what I love about the Marielle. It's all about the forces that are present in your life, whether you get it or not, whether you have to work with the forces, right? With what's there, and the suffering is there for a reason. And if we can just accept that and be on our own team for a change, wouldn't that be nice? And the last card I got was the 8 of Wands, which I think is one of the most beautiful right there. So the set of them, tarots always make sense to me more and more these days. I just love working with this. And if I took out the Halloween or the pagan cats or any of it, it would just have come out differently, but still beautiful and still applicable. I would still have seen how there's this enormous striving, there's this we can't do anything but love, really. And the history in the past and the mechanisms are there so that we make a choice, actually make sovereign choices to turn back to our true nature, to turn back to who we really are, pain and all. And so then it makes a lot of sense again. So thank you for being here. Gonna have a cup of tea now. I have a couple of other things I want to talk about tomorrow and the day after. Thank you for being here. See you soon. Bye bye.